chip off the old block. Looking at you got me thinking about my old pops. How I'ma navigate and get you through the roadblocks.
I've been sharing so much of my personal life with people the past year or two that a lot of people were giving me props for things that seemed kind of normal to me at first. So like me being a father who has like primary custody of his child. I don't have full custody, it's still joint, but he lives with me, is uncommon. So a lot of people were seeing that in the county or the area I live in, and they would say, wow, Norman has this kid, he's a great father. And I'm just like, you know, you're supposed to take care of your children. And it was confusing me at first. It was like, wow, am I really great? Am I a great father, or am I just doing what I'm supposed to do? And the bar is so low that it makes me seem extraordinary.
Now, I think that we all can agree that being an entrepreneur is no easy task, right? But let's try adding on being a creative entrepreneur and a new husband and a father or two while maintaining a very, very healthy relationship with your child's mother. I want you guys to meet Norman. Norman is just that, a creative entrepreneur here in Connecticut. We talk about a few things in this episode. I had a lot of fun with this one. So we go over minimalism. It's this movement in which you kind of declutter your life and focus only on the things that you need. We go over his massive amount of debt relief. I'm talking $72,000 worth of debt relief that we're talking about here. And we go over his strategies for co-parenting. Hope you guys enjoy.
Me and my wife have been together for years. It's been, 8 years, I want to say now? Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay.
Yep, because, I met her when my oldest son was 6 months.
Okay.
So he's 9 now. So, yeah. So it's been 8.5 years.
Okay.
I'll make sure I get that right. So 8.5 years, and we began talking about marriage more seriously probably in the last year and a half. And, you start going through those cycles and you're like, I really need to get my life together and, things like that before you get married, and start taking things just more serious. Like, this is not just a girlfriend, boyfriend. This is a real thing. But we were already living with each other. We had a child at the time. She's been in my oldest son's life. So it kind of felt like we were married anyway. You know what I mean?
What did Ashley think when because you had the kid first, and then you guys then you guys met? You guys met before you had the kid?
So I met her when he was 5 months old.
When he was 5 months old.
Yep.
So what did she think about like dating a guy that had a kid already?
That's
a newborn kid.
Yeah, that's interesting. She recently told me, because we have a little show together called Love Oates that we do together, where we just discuss issues and family things. She said on there, a recent episode, that she just wasn't taking me serious at the time, which was news to me. She said it was fine because she didn't think it would actually go to become something greater anyway. It was just in the moment, having some fun, and yeah.
So she was playing around.
Yeah, basically.
So were you serious?
No, not really either. So
okay, so I guess that evens itself out then. You weren't
works.
Serious. She wasn't really serious.
Yeah.
So were you apprehensive about, like, did you think that she may not have wanted to talk to you, or did you think that your pull was going to decrease a little bit since you already had a kid and you weren't with your kid's mom?
I did at first. And it's kind of crazy because me and my oldest son's mom, we actually weren't together when she gave birth. We were together, and then by the time she gave birth, we weren't together. And at first I was just like, I'm starting this thing off all wrong. I'm 21. I was freshly 21 when he was born. And I'm just like, this is trash. I'm 21. I have a newborn baby. I'm not with the mom. This is going to be terrible. And then, like, after like one trip to the mall, I was like, everybody loves me still. This is crazy. Just walking around the mall with a stroller. And I was just like, wow, people aren't bothered by this. Like, I was surprised, honestly.
Yeah, that's good. So you guys are in I guess it's fair to say, a co-parenting situation?
Yeah, I guess.
Do you have a definition for co-parenting?
My definition of co-parenting,
which is the best definition,
is my son, he lives with me. The oldest lives with me, and his mom lives in Las Vegas. So we're separated from each other like by lots of miles. What was it, like 2,000 miles?
Yeah, that's a long time.
Yeah, so there isn't like a situation where it's like every weekend and things like that. Our situation is more like school year and summer. Or like school year, Christmas break, some are like it's mixed up like that, whereas usual co-parenting situations, mom and dad might be 15 minutes away from each other, so they dip and dabble. They might have Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and then Thursday, Friday, Saturday is someone else. But my situation is more so it's pretty straightforward because we can't see each other that often. So my best definition of co-parenting is honestly pretending like the other person isn't there and just making sure you do everything that you need to do for your child when the child is with you. And that probably relieves a lot of stress from many situations.
Like, do you guys do family stuff together? Like when you guys are together? Like, is there a situation where you, your oldest, and then your oldest's mom, like hang out together? Is that like a no-no?
Not necessarily a no-no. It doesn't happen.
But does it not happen because you guys are just past all of that, or because and the only reason I'm asking is because what I hear a lot of the times is, we still want to have like the family, and we want the kid to still hang out with like both of us, and him to be around his mom and his dad. Right. And I've seen that, but I've seen it like conflict a little bit. Yeah,
absolutely. I get it.
You know what I mean? So you have like your now wife.
Yeah.
Then you have, your, what's another word? I hate to use the baby mama.
Yeah,
term.
I don't.
Like, what
I
is
just call her mother of my child.
So you have her over here. You have her
mother
over
of my
here.
child.
Yeah, you have her, and you have to leave your wife sometimes to go and be with your kid and your kid's mom and stuff. Has something like that ever like?
I think my situation is unique because he lives with me most of the time. So he's majorly. I'm not sure if that's how you say it, but he's mostly with me, and that kind of the issue that most guys come into is that the child lives with mom, so it's always the dad going out and separating himself from his current situation to be a part of that, where it's kind of opposite in my situation, where she kind of comes more into my world.
Yeah,
so this is easier on my end.
And Ashley is cool with all of that?
For the most part.
Yeah, for the most part.
For the most part.
Okay. The most part is good. The majority of it is for the majority of it, that's good. That's good that she's doing that.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that was one thing I wanted to like get around, like the co-parenting situation. Like how does that work? But since yours is so unique, it's a little different. I don't think I've heard of that situation.
Yeah, no one. I have a lot of friends with children who are separated from the other parent, and none of them, their children live with them most of the time.
So was it a fight to kind of have that work out that way?
It was. There's like a court order involved and everything like that, but it was for the best.
Yeah.
I would say the first two, because she's from here, she's from Connecticut, so the first 2 years, we were in a relationship at one point. And the first 2 years, I was still with my wife currently, because we were together since he was 5 months, but we kind of co-parented more traditionally. For the first couple years, things were kind of hard here, and she went to Las Vegas because she has family out there. So family out there was able at the time to help out more than me. I was still kind of just all over the place. My life really wasn't in a position to help out as much as I probably should have helped out. So she left with him, my oldest son, from 2 to 3. So for a year, he actually lived in Las Vegas, and I had to go and travel to see him and things like that. And then over the course of that year, to try to keep it as brief as possible, she just wasn't able to kind of sustain what she thought she was going to be able to do out there, like on her own. And then I just essentially had to come and get him back, and then from that point forward, I shifted in my mind, okay, he needs to be taken care of. This is my man. I got to do it. I'm just going to take care of everything. I don't want any trouble with you. I'm not going to be in your phone every week asking for this, that, because I can't imagine doing that being a man anyway. You know what I'm saying? So like that kind of played into it, but I just didn't want the drama of saying, hey, I asked you for $100 last week. You say you're going to give it and you still don't. I rather, it makes me feel better knowing that everything is covered. And if you buy him some sneakers this week, yay, he has 5 pair of sneakers instead of 4. You know what I mean? And that just makes it easier for me. But everybody is not in that mind frame. where, if people aren't doing and they're expecting, I think the expectation is what really makes things terrible in that co-parenting situation. I don't expect anything from the other parent. So when it does happen, it's like, oh, okay, awesome.
Wow, that's like gender role reversal.
Yeah.
Is that a thing? Gender role reversal? That's what it kind of sounds like. Like
it's that, but it's also like more mature too, because the moms that I know who do that with their sons' fathers or daughters' fathers, there's a lot of animosity there too. So it's like, I'm doing it all on my own, and they might not let you see the child. I'm not that person. If she comes in town, you can take them. You know what I mean? It's not an issue. Oh, you want to do something? You could do it. Whereas in those situations, a lot of times the moms are like, well, you don't do anything. I'm not expecting nothing from you, but you not seeing your child. Or no, you can't FaceTime him tonight. He sleep, but he might be playing Nintendo Switch. Yeah. I've seen all of those things play out.
So do you think that's more of that situation is more of like a maturity thing? Or do you think it's more of you're a man and men think much differently than women do?
If I'm being honest, it's probably more because I'm a man and then maturity.
Yeah.
Than me being this super mature person. I just can't see myself begging or asking a woman constantly for anything, even if it is their responsibility. I just can't do it.
When did your definition of success change?
I think it changed a lot over the years as I transitioned from being a full-time employee to an entrepreneur, honestly. So at first, success for me was when I first started, I'm a photographer. So when I was a full-time worker and I was just getting gigs, I was making maybe just a couple extra $100 a month, $200-$300. Success at that point was, hey, if I can cover my Audi payment, that's one bill I don't have to cover anymore. And that was like success, because I'm used to getting this set dollar amount every 2 weeks. This $350 bill I no longer have to pay. It's coming from another source, which I didn't even consider real income because I wasn't taking it that serious at the time. So anything that allowed me to have more freedom with my regular life, which was 9 to 5, felt like success. Then as I started taking it more serious, it was like, okay, this isn't covering the car note anymore. It's now covering, half the rent. And then it went from, wow, it's covering the whole rent. And then it was like, wait, maybe I can do this just flat out. Maybe if I had the more time, it could pay for everything. And then now success for me is making sure that out of all of my days in a year, I have more days where I was happy with what I did than unhappy. And it's just that simple. So I have the basics. I can take care of my children. We have everything we need. We don't have everything we want, but we have everything we need. And I'm happy with how things are in my household more than unhappy. I don't want to make a lot of money and not like what I do most of the year.
Yeah. I understand that quite a bit. So would you say, so you have two kids growing up together. Now they see you doing this entrepreneurial thing, right? So what would you say, are you going to push them towards the entrepreneurial route, or are you going to push them towards, college?
It's funny because I'm an entrepreneur and college was not for me. I literally blew about $45,000-$50,000 going to college, which I just paid off like a year and a half ago. And this was 10 years ago. You know what I mean? So it took a long time to pay it off. College did nothing for me because I had no idea what I was there for. So I know that I'm going to stress to my sons that they need to at least have an idea of what they're going to college for. College is not a place where you want to figure out what you want to become while you're paying 20, 30, 40 grand a year. That's what I was doing. I was at a private university. The university, I think, was 35 grand at the time. I had some grants. It was costing me about 20 to 22 grand a year. I had no idea what I was there for. So I spent 2 years in there, graduated with $44,000 worth of debt, got an associate's degree in liberal arts because I had no idea what I was there for. I wasn't focused on anything. And when you don't declare a major, they just put you in like a liberal arts degree.
Yeah, they do.
Exactly. So just to make you feel like you're getting something. I have a piece of paper that says I graduated college with an associate's degree, but that degree has done nothing for me because it's not focused on anything. So I'm currently saving for my boys for college, but the plan is if they decide to go more entrepreneur route, that we pull that money out and maybe fund or help them start their first business. So I think it's going to be up to them.
Okay, so so I'm pretty sure you're still going to give them like entrepreneurial,
absolutely.
like
You always need a side hustle. No matter what you do, you got to find something that you love to do on the side, a hobby that could turn into income.
Yeah.
Because that's what it was for me.
Yeah. My thing is you always do have to figure out like what kind of person you are. But how do you know that at 17?
Yeah. It's
or
tough.
18?
Yeah.
You know, it's like it's a roll of the dice.
Yeah.
Right?
I have some friends, like I know a guy who's an engineer, and he told me that his dad told him when he was young, I want to say 7, 8 years old, that you're going to be an engineer. And I guess that worked for him because he grew up his whole life knowing that he wanted to be an engineer, and he's an engineer, a very successful engineer right now. And it's just like, wow, I couldn't imagine those talks didn't even come in my family. You know, there were no talks about college. But he rolled with it, and he's successful, and he's an engineer, and he loves it.
So do you think the fact that you grew up differently, you grew up, there was like no college talk and all that?
No college talk.
Do you think so? You're going to talk about college to your kids now? So do you think that will change the whole path and have them thinking, oh, I'm just going to go to college because this is what I keep hearing for the last 10 years?
So they're going to get a unique perspective from it, because I got no college talk because nobody in my family went to college. You know, no one graduated from college. I was actually the first male in my family to graduate high school. All of my older brothers actually dropped out. My dad, I think he graduated high school, and then Army, you know how that went. Army came back, worked for the government. I'm originally from D.C., so everybody in D.C. works for the government. Yeah,
of course.
So that's just how it went. And he grew up in the days where you didn't need a degree to advance in the company. You just had to do well, and every 2 to 3 years you got a promotion. Yeah. Now it's like, no, we're going to cap you here because you have a high school diploma. And then if you have a bachelor's, you can go up another grade. And then you need to get your master's, and like they stop you now. Whereas back then, where my dad came up, as long as you did good, you would keep getting promotions. So he high school grad in like the 90s making like $80,000 a year. That's almost impossible now. Working through a company, they're going to cap you at some point. Yeah. So that's definitely not how it works right now. It's like completely different. Yeah. So you seem to be pretty big on finances and stuff too. Absolutely.
All right. Tell me about this. Teach us about this financial situations.
So this came about because I was $75,000 in debt 2 years ago. Right after my youngest son was born, he was probably like 4 or 5 months. I got, this big like dad feeling over me, and it's like I'm the leader of the household. It's 2 boys now and a wife, and I need to take care of everybody. And I just was like, I'm gonna buy you guys a house, just out of nowhere. It was like, I think we're ready for a house, and I had never tried to apply for a house or go through the process, so I have no idea what's going to happen. And literally, I apply, and they almost laugh at me. They tell me that my debt to income ratio is too crazy. It's off. My credit score was too low. I had too much debt, period. The amount of money I owed was crazy. And it just wasn't, the numbers won't work. It just won't work. And they literally told me on the phone, like, hey, if you just take care of this problem and get this out of collections, we could probably swing a home in this range, But I'm the type of person that's like, if you tell me that my stuff is messed up and I need to make it happen, I don't want the quick fix. I want to make sure that when I apply again, when I come back to this table, I am more than approved. It's like, what can we do for you, Mr. Oates? Instead of, hey, I hope you can swing me into something.
Please, master,
just
please.
Anything. Exactly. So I've realized I wrote down everything after that phone conversation because I was really like sad about it. I had to go back to my girlfriend at the time, who's now my wife, and be like, yeah, it's not happening, And I realized I had $75,000 in debt, and it was everything from student loans to car notes to things in collections to credit card debt. It was everything that totaled $75,000, and I went on this mission to pay off all this debt, and I paid it all off in 14 months. And I was a full-time entrepreneur at the time, working for myself. And I was taking it so serious that I went back to work for like 5 or 6 months on top of running my business to pay it off as soon as possible and to get my family into a home. So everything that I learned through that 14-month process, I was like, there's no way everybody knows this stuff. So I just started sharing it. So everything, when I would learn something like, hey, this is how credit works, or this is, how you pay off a credit card, or get deals on things that you have in collections that are super old, I just start sharing it. And it was like, how you know all this stuff? And I was like, because I'm currently trying to work through this mess that I made of myself from my early 20s. I just turned 30 in December. So this is like
30 gang.
Yeah, it was like, so from, I made this huge, enormous mess from like 21 to like 27. And it took me like, a year and a half to like clean it up. And that was me really, really grinding and just making it happen.
Yeah, that's $72,000 of debt. That's it's a lot of money, but then it's also a lot of money to pay off in like, what'd you say, a year and 2 months?
All of it wasn't like a raw payoff. I think I paid off about, of the 75,000, I think 60 to 62 was actual cash that I paid off, and then that balance of 13,000 was like me getting deals for like old things that I had in collections. I had 2 things in collections worth like $24,000. So I would save up like $8,000 and like cut a deal. It was like, I know I owe you 13. Can you do 8? And then I hadn't made a payment on these debts for like 4 years. So they're just like, yeah, we thought we weren't going to get no money. So they were cutting deals like that. Like I owed them 13.1 and I gave them 88. And then I owed another person like 12 and they cut me a deal for like 75 or something like that. And that's why I was able to pay it off. Like I didn't pay off a raw amount of cash of 75,000. It was 62, which is still,
that counts, bro.
Right, that's still a lot of money. Right. But yeah. It was a mixture of like raw cash and like cutting deals with old debt collectors.
I mean, that's still a tough thing to do, even
absolutely.
If it's 62, and even knowing that you can actually call.
Yeah, it took me like 2 months though, because they're not just gonna, like, when you call them initially, they give you the whole spill. We're a debt collector. You owe us blah blah blah. You owe me $13,000, and then you're like, I don't got $13,000, and then you play this cat and mouse game, and it was like, well. Like, if you allow them to take control of the conversation, they'll be like, well, we can do 12.5. I'm like, that's not even a deal. That's $500. I haven't made a payment in 4 years. You're going to give me $500 off? You know what I mean? And they already written this stuff off years ago. Like, they didn't got the tax benefits and everything. So it's just like, no, it's not happening. So they was like, all right. I was like, well, can you do, I would just lowball them. Can you do 5? And it was like, absolutely not. And then, like, we would just leave the conversation there. All right, well, when you guys give me a better deal, I'll call you back. Boom, hang up. And then like 2 weeks ago by, because I called them now, and they start calling me, and they were like, hey, we just want to touch base. Can you do the 12.5? And I was like, nah, because I said 5 last time. I might be able to do 7. And they were like, nah, we can't do 7, but we can do 10. And I was like, no, 10. And literally we did this for like 2 months, and we finally reached, I think it was like 8,500. And I was like, that's fair. And I'm just tired.
And 2 months later,
I'm just tired. Like, so it is a process. It's not like something you're going to get done in 10 minutes on the phone.
Yeah.
Like, it's weeks and weeks of like cat and mouse, and just really trying to get it out of your life.
Yeah. At this point, it was just where you weren't married yet.
Nope.
You were. It was before. Were you like engaged at this point? Or?
No. So we were together, living together, everything. It's exactly how it is now. Honestly, we just weren't married. Yeah. So it was girlfriend and boyfriend at the time.
Oh, so did Ashley? Did your wife? Did she say like, oh, I kind of want to do the same thing too? And did she like jump on that bandwagon of trying to like alleviate her debt? Right.
So she is now. So I kind of went first, and I just was tackling my things of that nature. And then now the plan is now, okay, now we're married. The debt is ours. It's not just yours, it's ours. I already went through this whole cycle. I know what it's going to take to like, really climb this mountain. So I'm going to add myself to your problem and make it our problem. And now we're working on her debts.
Yeah, that's called marriage, right?
Exactly.
That's what that definition is.
You know what's crazy? Because a lot of people who are married are like, I've had this conversation with like hundreds of people, and most people say, no, if it's your debt, when you get married, you still paying it off. And I'm like, but it's about us at this point. And it's like, if I have 50 and you have 10, we have 60. It's not like I can't be thriving in a marriage that we're supposed to be one in, and you're struggling sitting right next to me. That makes no sense. Like, you got to understand, if it's that serious to you, then maybe marriage isn't for you with this particular person. If it's that serious to you. But they don't want to have that conversation.
Oh, that's a whole different. That's a whole different conversation.
Because you take them as they are, as a whole. So she invited me into her world with a son that wasn't hers, and I'm taking on her debt like I spent the money. You know what I mean? So it is what it is, and that's where we meet in the middle.
So I'm assuming there's a whole lot of sacrificing that you got to do to pay off 72, 60,000, something.
Yep. Absolutely.
A bunch of different types. So would you just cut like going out or
what as much as possible? Going out as much as possible. We pretty much ate in the house. I pretty much eat in the house anyway most of the time. And when I go out, it's like Buffalo Wild Wings. I'm not at like Capitol Grill every weekend anyway. So even if I wanted to get a quick fix going out, I'm at like, I think maybe Cheesecake Factory is probably the most expensive place we went to. I'm not going on $200 dates while I owe $70,000 in debt. You know what I mean? So that was probably the big cutoff, was that. And then just raising your income any kind of way. So I sold some stuff on eBay. I was once in dental school. So I had like $5,000 worth of like dental equipment just sitting in my basement for years. And I was just like, let me see what I can get on eBay. I ended up getting like $2,500 on eBay for this old dental equipment from school. And I was just like, wow, this has been sitting in my basement for years. $2,500 is sitting there. And then I would get that and I would just throw the whole thing on the debt. And it wasn't like, when tax season came around, if I got $3,000-4,000 back, where I would usually like just go on a vacation. Well, I'm not a big vacation guy, but I would spend it on something like it'd probably be camera equipment. Yeah. I'd buy a new lens or something like that. I was just like, no, I'm not buying nothing, all in the debt. And I would just knock things off the checklist, and that really was a sacrifice there.
Did you do something like, did you go largest debt to smallest, or highest interest to lowest interest?
So I didn't worry about the interest, because the way I was attacking it all had to go as soon as possible anyway. And interest really is your problem when you stretch it out over a long time. So it didn't matter if this had 10% interest and this had, interest free for 18 months. You know what I mean? It was lowest to smallest. Mm-hmm. So I had some debts that were, I think my lowest debt was on a credit card for like $1,700. So I attacked that first. And then that bill, that the minimum on that was like $75 a month. So now I have an extra $75 a month to now attack the next bill, which was $3,000, and then move up. And this one was $6,000, and then it just gets bigger and bigger. But the higher you go up, the more income you have, because you're not making payments on those smaller debts anymore.
Yeah. So during that, did you say 14 months?
14 months, $75,000.
So during that 14 months, did you accumulate any more debt within that 14 months of trying to pay off your...
It's crazy. I didn't. It was times where things went bad. Like, what ended up happening? Something, I forgot. It was something that happened, but it was like $600-700. And like, I had just paid like $3,000 to like a debt collector or something like that. And I just literally just prayed. And I was just like, here's the $600. I only got $750 in my bank account. I'm just gonna have to wait till I get paid in 5 days, you know what I mean? Or hope a gig comes through, because, as a photographer, you can get paid any day of the week. You might not get paid for 2 weeks, and then you'll get $2,000 on a Wednesday at 7 p.m. You just never know. Mm-hmm. So luckily for me, I had that in my, like, I have the ability of getting paid every day. So I could check in, I can go through my emails and be like, okay, I talked to this person 2 weeks ago. Let me just see if they need what we were talking about. Do you need this photo shoot? And like, sometimes I realized in that process that I need to start following up with people more. Because sometimes you'll talk to people, hey, the shoot's going to be 200, 300, 400, whatever we decided on there. It's like, okay, I'll get back to you. And then their lives are busy. They're working on things. So you just checking in. And some people I checked in with, they were like, yeah, I do want to do that. And I was like, yes, random $150. Like, come through, you know what I mean? Whatever it was. And yeah,
I was trying to figure out how human are you? That's what I was trying to figure out. Because I've tried to attack many things over X amount of time and just fall off the horse. Yeah, right? Just fall off it, and then I'm like, I'm getting back on it in a month, and I'll go 2 steps back, then 3 steps forward, then 1 step back, then 2, and then and I'm going back and forth. But it sounds like you were just super dedicated.
I was super dedicated, and the crazy thing about it is, throughout the process of paying off debt, I was dedicated. But literally, as I got out of debt, then I was like, I'm a little more lenient now. Like, I just shared a story recently how I actually put half of my wife's engagement ring on a credit card. And I preach all the time, don't put stuff like that on a credit card, to save up for it, blah, blah, blah. But I was so, like, we were together for 8 years. I was like, we're getting married. I want to get married. We decided not to get rings at first. And then we were like, no, I want to get my wife a ring. You know what I mean? And I had all the money to pay it cash that day, but I literally decided, like, I'm just going to pay half today and put half on this 18 months no interest situation. It's no interest. It's fine. And I literally realized, like, within a couple of weeks, I was like, I haven't had credit card debt in almost 2 years. Why do I have thousands of dollars on a credit card after I just preached for 2 years of no debt and then it's not even something that we needed. It was just something that I wanted for her, and it was nice. It was cool to have, you know, a ring when we got married, but it was just like, this is crazy. So I went back on like gun ho for like a month and a half. Every extra dollar I got, I just paid it off. I was like, I can't do this.
It was uncomfortable.
Yeah, it was uncomfortable. Like, it was terrible. I didn't like it. So
yeah,
nah,
but since you guys got married like so quick, I mean, you guys were living together.
Yep.
But you decided to get married in like a month's time frame or something like that. Mm-hmm. So that's not really in the planning.
Yeah.
Like.
Yeah, exactly. So we didn't plan like for all these expenses. It just kind of came up, and we originally were going to get married just, you know, $50 just as a piece. But the day we wanted to get married, 11/11, actually ended up being Veterans Day, so they weren't open that day. So we were like, we gotta rent a venue. And I don't know why this ended up being way bigger than it was supposed to be, but it being a holiday literally turned this from a $50 wedding to I think we only spent like $5 or $6 grand on the wedding itself, and then not including the rings. Or no, I think we spent like $3 grand on the wedding, and then plus rings or whatever like that, which is super cheap for a wedding. Yeah. But it was still unexpected. So if you fork over $6, $7, $8 grand within a month time frame that you weren't expecting for, it'll probably deplete your savings. You know what I mean? And that's exactly what I did.
So why not? So why not just say, okay, let's not get married in 2 weeks time frame. Let's just get married in the summer.
Exactly.
Why not?
Why didn't we? That's what I asked myself. That's what I recently asked myself. I don't know why this was a rush. I have no idea.
Oh man, but it was good. I mean, look,
but it's behind us now. Everything's paid off.
I mean, it all looked. It didn't look like it took 5 minutes to plan or anything. It was looked very nice. Dress and everything was very nice. Suit was very nice. Yeah. Pictures super dope. So it looked very, very, very good. You know what I mean? What was the difference in your experience from your first kid being born and this kid?
I think the biggest experience, like the biggest difference in experience was that, you know, we are actually together, you know, when we had the baby. So I didn't miss any births. I was there through the whole process of both children. But coming home, we came home together, and we went up there together and brought the child home instead of it coming home to one parent's home. And it was like, okay, when I'm going to see my newborn now, you know, he's out the hospital. When do I see him? And things like that. I realized through the process of having my second son that I get why they say be married before you have children. You know, be with somebody, committed to somebody before you have children, because it makes a world of a difference. It's so much easier raising a child with somebody that you live with and that you're committed to than someone that you're not in a relationship and you live in separate homes. It just it's too much room for extra issues when you aren't together.
Yeah.
You know, that in itself is an issue, because it's like, I'm stressed out. I had the baby up all night. When are you coming picking him up? Instead of like, if my wife's stressed out, she can actually just pass him to me because I'm right next to her, you know? So it's a lot. I would say, yeah, be together. Yeah. I have learned though through, I've learned what my role is and what I'm best at in my house. And I am absolutely the best at providing and being the muscle in the house. You know, if something needs to get fixed, if something goes wrong, I'm the first one there. I'm taking care of, you know, things need to be paid for, I'm there. You know, children have an event, blah, blah, blah. That's me. I am a great father, but she absolutely handles the children much better than me. And I'm happy that we have this agreement in my household. And a lot of men argue that, you know, in today's equal opportunity world, you know, a lot of men think that things should be split 50-50 in the household. And I often try to tell men that, you know, if you are splitting the bills with your significant other 50-50, but she's doing more cooking than you, or she's doing more laundry than you, or she's taking care of the children more than you, it's more than just financial. A lot of times in our households, we think 50-50 is just money, but it's not. Yeah. It's all the other tasks that are going on. So I try to tell to them that if you are splitting bills 50-50, but she is 75-25 on all the other tasks in the house, your wife or your significant other is actually more valuable than you in the home. And a lot of men aren't ready to have that conversation.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? So to me, it's like, I will take more of the responsibility of paying more bills or doing the muscle and fixing things, because I know that she's doing much more of the other stuff, and it has to balance out some way or another.
Okay.
So I can't complain about paying all these bills or doing all this stuff when I know I'm not 100% even with her on the other tasks.
Mm-hmm.
So, but that took a while to get.
So that's good.
There.
You've identified your persona in the house.
Absolutely.
So my question, based on that.
Yeah.
All right. So in the event that, Ashley's business just like explodes, which it probably will in a little while.
I hope so.
And, she starts to bring in more money than you now.
Right.
How does that make you feel, the fact that you're solidified in what you are right now?
That's tough. Yeah, that's a really good question. If Ashley made more than me, I would absolutely be happy if she made equal to me or more than me, because I see our household financially and everything else as a unit in one. So if she's making just as much as me, we have this. You know what I mean? If I make 50 and she makes 50, we have 100. You know what I mean? So that's how I think of it. And then we're going to take this 100 and we're going to apply it to everything that we need to apply it to. But I can see in there it being a little like, wow, so she's making more than me and she does more of this household stuff. Like, that can be an issue. I guess we will cross that when we get there.
When we get there. Yeah. That's always an interesting thing, because I've heard some guys say, it doesn't matter. Some guys awkwardly say it doesn't matter when they know it may bother them a little bit. But I thought it was interesting because you was like, oh yeah, this is my role.
It's my thing.
This is what I do.
And it could not be my thing one day.
It could. It could. I heard a question that you asked at one point. I'm going to ask you what Ashley said. You said, am I an extraordinary father, or am I an extraordinary husband, or am I just doing what like a husband should do?
Oh, yes. I did bring that up months ago.
Yeah, what did she say to that?
What did Ashley say to that? She said it was both.
It can't be both. It's
Yeah,
gotta be
she
one.
said it was both, though. I'm always positive that's what she said. She said it's a mixture. She's like, you are a great father and dad, but I think you, somewhere in the mix of you being that, is you knowing that this is what you're supposed to do at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like finding your role and your purpose in your family and your life, honestly.
Yeah, I think that was a good question, because I was like, dang, what am I?
Yeah. It's like, am I over the top? Because that question came about because I've been sharing so much of my personal life with people the past year or two that a lot of people were giving me props for things that seemed kind of normal to me at first. So like me being a father who has like primary custody of his child. I don't have full custody. It's still joint, but he lives with me, is uncommon. So a lot of people were seeing that in the county or the area I live in. And it was like, wow, Norman has this kid. He's a great father. And I'm just like, you're supposed to take care of your children. And it was confusing me at first. It was like, wow, am I really great? Am I a great father, or am I just doing what I'm supposed to do? And the bar is so low that it makes me seem extraordinary.
Yeah.
So I converted that to, me being a father. And in my household and as a husband or whatever I was asking at the time, I asked her that. I was like, am I really this amazing person? Or am I just regular and everybody else is just not even doing the bare minimum?
Yeah.
It's crazy when you reach a point in a community where bare minimum, the basics, is actually extraordinary.
Yeah. I mean, even now, I don't even know what to say. I mean, I would think I'm doing just regular stuff, but then at the same time, I don't even know if I can define like what an extraordinary dad or father looks like. Like, what does that look like? What can somebody do that's like an extraordinary father attribute?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I think a lot of it comes down to the memories you make with your children, because I realized a lot of people have had the father who wasn't necessarily around, but he always made sure that they were fresh growing up. So they always had the Jordans and they had the outfits because he paid for it. He was running around doing whatever he wanted outside of that. But as they got older and they're like 23, 24, 25, they realized, oh, my dad really wasn't around. He really wasn't a great dad. He just bought me a lot of stuff. Like, you know what I mean? Yeah. But when you're a child and you're 9 and you're 10 and you're 11, all you want is the games and the sneakers and the stuff. And it's like, my dad is amazing, because so many people don't have a dad at all. It's just their mom. Yeah. And you realize later, it's like, my dad wasn't amazing. He just bought me a lot of stuff.
So wait a minute.
Like, you weren't even there.
Yeah.
You just pulled up every couple of weeks with, $200.
Yeah, with a pair of Jordans. Yeah. Pair of J's and stuff. Right?
And like, your mind is so simple at those young ages, it seems extraordinary. And so you realize, and you have your own children, and it was like, wow, if I just bought my kids clothes, like I would probably feel like a terrible father, like a bad person.
Go ahead and run me through this whole minimalist thing, because a lot of people don't really know what it is like at all.
Absolutely. So I consider myself like a minimalist in training.
Me too. Yes.
Because I still have a lot of things to declutter, but minimalism in its essence is essentially keeping things in your space that you need, really only what you need, and only what, like, really just only what you need, honestly. And I've thrown away a lot of clothes because I realized I own 25 pair of jeans and I wear the same 3 ones all the time. So I was like, what am I doing with these other 22? You know? So it's just like, this is crazy. So I started throwing out jeans and shirts and things like that. And I realized that on a normal day, if I'm not working a gig, I'm in like t-shirts and sweatpants. So it's just like, I really just need to focus on just having my t-shirts and my sweatpants. And I only own like 4 or 5 pair of sneakers right now. So it's like, I'm still getting there. I don't think I'll ever get to the point of just having
one fork,
one fork and, one cup and one plate. Yeah. But I'm absolutely in the process of decluttering. And I think most people, if they take the time over like 3 or 4 week period, they'll realize that they have a lot of stuff that they haven't used and it needs to go in the trash. I
feel like decluttering, minimalism and decluttering, those sound like 2 different things. Like you can declutter, like, which is literally decluttering. But minimalism seems like it's just something different. I mean, I almost think minimalism is like something extreme.
Yeah.
Like one shirt.
There's definitely people who take it to that level. But for me, it's totally just, it's more on the decluttering side. It's like getting rid of things I don't need in my life and they're just occupying space because I have way too much stuff. And I realized when I purchased my home 9 months ago that it's a little bit smaller than the condo that I used to rent. Mm-hmm. So everything doesn't have a home. So which means it's in my living room or it's in my bed when it used to go in the closet, but my closet isn't as big anymore. And it's like, I haven't used the stuff in 5 years. Why do I even own it anymore? And
Hey, I hope you guys got a lot of value out of that podcast. Norman is a very, very awesome guy, very genuine too. Feel free to follow him on Instagram. Don't forget to follow the Dad Vlog at dad_vlog on Instagram, and see you next week. Dad Vlog.
So use a chip off the old block. Looking at you got me thinking about my old pops. How I'ma navigate and get you through the roadblocks. You went from diaper change, poo-poo to potty train, whoa. Come and talk to me, I got a lot of game, whoa. Smile like your mama, but we look the same, whoa. And you can talk all week, but somehow that sound like music to me. Like that.